Here we go. It's Texans radio during a so-called dark period because we don't have the on-air capability right now. Availability. The ability to air on Sports Radio 610. We'll be back after the Super Bowl. The day after, 6 p.m., we'll start our weekly shows. But Johnny, wanted to catch up here because this is the offseason, and we've had a lot that's happened since you and I have talked last, and we really haven't talked much at all anyway, right? Even off the air.
Yep.
You've been at the Senior Bowl. I've been doing budgets and things, and I think you won in that. You won that little matchup.
I did win.
Oh, wow.
That's a 16 versus a 1.
It is. That's a crusher right there.
Yeah,
16-1. They finally got off the schneid there a few years ago. What was it, Virginia?
Yeah, Virginia. UMBC beat Virginia, and then Purdue lost to somebody as well, and I can't remember who that was.
I've been watching a lot of college basketball since the Texan season has ended because there's nothing else.
Nothing else.
I did watch some of the Pro Bowl stuff, and I know you haven't caught too much of that, but it was great to see CJ doing some things.
Yep.
And the skills competition, I thought the throw he made in the Pro Bowl flag football game was phenomenal.
The one to Jamar Chase?
Yes.
Oh, that was just ridiculous. That's the throw. You know, of course, being in Mobile, a lot of people, want to talk about CJ and what's it like and all. It's really hard to really encapsulate it in just a minute or two conversation. All you got to do is say, well, off the field, he's just this genuine human being. I mean, the media gave him the Good Guy Award.
Right.
I mean, that's who they voted to give the Good Guy Award, and he was just humbled by it, like, whoa, this is wild. As a player, you look and go, he did that all year long.
Yep.
He didn't just do that in the Pro Bowl with no pads and running away from Patrick Peterson or whoever he's running away from. No, he did that all year against everybody. That type of throw where guys just it's been fascinating to kind of listen to guys that have the podcasts, and we were listening to one day that was EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin.
Yeah.
And they were talking about CJ, and you could just, their eyes just kind of lit up like, oh, man, he's on a different level.
He's already lying with his eyes.
He's lying with his eyes.
I love that line.
It was a great line. And both of them obviously playing linebacker, and they're very good. I felt like the Colts linebackers, and that was one of the things I felt like watching the teams that made the playoffs or that were, knocking their heads on the playoffs right there on the door like the Colts. Had really good linebacker play. Franklin Speed were really tough, and then they can make things really tough because the way they can run and hit, cover, etc. But the respect they had for CJ was just incredible. It was amazing to listen to.
Fraternizing with all the different players, and a lot of people call it, is that illegal tampering? Look, it's the Pro Bowl. You're allowed to talk to the guys, right? Yes. Someday some of these guys will be free agents. We'll see how that goes. Look, flag football-wise, because, I coach a lot of flag football for a decade now with my sons. The play that he kind of called / designed with Keenan Allen to put Allen in motion. I love the mic'd up stuff.
Yeah.
I couldn't get enough of that flag football, actually. The women's game, the girls' game they played earlier was great.
Yeah, it's fun.
That was great. But anyway, the play to Allen where he laterals it to him, and he's going out for the pass, but it ends up to Ingram for the touchdown in the corner. That's a true flag football, crazy lateral, get everybody spread out, confused, get the defense discombobulated. CJ talked about lulling them to sleep right there. That was cool. It's just fun to see all the offseason stuff, and we've got NFL honors coming up with a lot of different things on the table for the Houston Texans, so that's going to be great on Thursday.
It's amazing to think about honors in 2023 versus honors in 2024 and how much Texans flavor there will be at the honors ceremony and in past, present, future. Yeah. Past, present, future. So that's going to be remarkable to watch.
We'll find out about Andre Johnson as well.
Exactly. We'll find out about Andre. You've got Coach of the Year. You've got Defensive Rookie of the Year. You've got Offensive Rookie of the Year. My gosh, you've got everything.
Yeah, you do. And I can't wait to see it. And then the Super Bowl itself. Oh, by the way, on the Super Bowl, the whole Taylor Swift thing, not being called out about this, but I said, you got to beat the Swifties, and we were joking about it all season long.
Yeah.
And then you see the backlash coming. Why are people picking on Taylor Swift? And she's awesome, and she's wonderful. And look, nobody ever said she isn't.
Right.
It's not a Taylor Swift thing. I hate the Chiefs.
Right.
I can't stand the Chiefs.
That's correct.
This is the healthy sports hate I'm always talking about.
Right.
I don't hate her. I hate the Chiefs.
Right.
But she happens to be in the line of fire right now.
Right.
What do you want me to do? And there's no Yoko Ono effect. If anything, she's helped them.
Right.
This is really aggravating. I loved her during the Grammys, too. She's hard not to like. I got to admit this.
Wait, she won a Grammy and then said she's dropping an album April 19th?
Genius
now that's
promoter.
Hey, thank you to everybody. By the way, I got another album coming.
Yeah.
April, and it just
Just
caught
what
like
you need.
wildfire. I'm like, I started seeing the word poet, tortured poets, I think is what it's
something like
called.
that,
I kept
yeah.
seeing that trending. I'm like, what the?
She should call it the Kelsey Diaries, and then when you get the sports fans, we'll actually buy it then. We'll actually stream that album. I don't know. But I thought she was going to get up there and maybe acknowledge the other performers. Maybe she did later. I only saw the one acceptance speech. The Tracy Chapman thing was great. There were some other
that
moments.
was so good with
good.
Luke Combs. By the way, I read today on the Twitters or X, whatever you call it. In fact, I saw her retweet it. Tracy Chapman's song "Fast Car" is now #1 on iTunes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure everybody went nuts last
They
night
went
trying
right
to find
back to it.
Well, the other thing is they had a great setup video.
Yes.
And I'm watching that and I'm thinking, oh, so he's going to perform. That's cool. And then all of a sudden she shows up and I thought, that is electric. I didn't know. Maybe
They
it leaked
were
out, but
brilliant.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
If you haven't seen it, Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs sing her song "Fast Car," and it's brilliant.
Yeah, really well
It
done.
is so
Really well done.
restrained and not over. It's so good. I saw it on Twitter. I was like, and that's what reminded me. Oh, hey, the Grammys are on.
Yeah.
And so I saw that, and of course I had something going on in the background, and I heard like 5 seconds of her starting the song, and I paused. It was on TV. I was like, I got to watch this, and I was locked into it. It is a gorgeous performance for both of them, and so it was good. And she liked that performance. You could see her standing up in a crowd, which I thought was pretty interesting.
It kept a fun weekend, though, because the Pro Bowl, then that, the Pro Bowl games. Johnny, one note on that before we leave that topic. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
We don't want the game anymore. I get it why we can't have the game anymore. They used to really play this game, but they don't do it anymore. Fine. I'm thinking, can you move it all back to Hawaii? Because this reason, and Orlando did a great job. They had good weather. That helped.
That helped.
Full stadium. Excellent. But if you do it in Hawaii, I think all the people who didn't go, they're going to go. They're going to go to Hawaii. Most people will take the trip to Hawaii with the family when they get Aloha Stadium renovated. Yeah, Aloha Stadium, what does it have in common with Estadio Azteca in Mexico City? Both are being renovated.
Yes.
And until they renovate, the NFL's not going back there.
Right.
So maybe they go back to Aloha Stadium.
It would be kind of nice. I will say, and I don't know if it was just a group of guys or whatever. The competition comes out on these guys. But this group seemed, or the parts that I saw, they were doing one of the linemen push the sled, and Jason Kelsey was on the sled, and I can't remember who. I think Penei Sewell was pushing him. When they won that event, everybody in the NFC went nuts. They went crazy. And I was just like, if they're going to get into it, the fans will get into it.
Yeah, it's true.
And you start, showing that appreciation in some sense for whatever event you have going on. The fans will get involved if you get involved. If you're just kind of like, sitting there kind of flipping, okay, great, golf clap, whatever. These guys were jumping around, celebrating.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelsey was on top of the thing. And I mean, it was just really cool that if you are going to go there, that you do participate. And it just felt like that sort of rubbed off on everybody that was there. It was not too cool for school. It was not the old Pro Bowl, which is just like, well, I'm not really going to rush against you. You just kind of, let the quarterback
But
do
there
his
were some violent plays in the old Pro Bowl. In fact, the head coach here in the 2009 season Pro Bowl, he played.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that at the time he was getting too rough. By the way, did you see our tweet? Texans Twitter account, X, puts out this retro stuff, J.J. Watt at the Pro Bowl. Sacking Alex Smith. And I thought, oh, no, because we all know what happened in 2018. But I looked at it closely, and if people have commented on this and I didn't spot their comments, I'm sorry because I didn't read the comments. I just saw it. I slowed down the video or just looked at the video a few times. Alex's ankle, it doesn't tweak, but it could have gone right then. I thought, JJ, this was a premonition kind of play. And it's a tough play. You watch a play like that, you're thinking, oh, it's good they don't play the real Pro Bowl anymore.
Right. Absolutely. And the thing about, Alex Smith's real injury was that Kareem hit him at the same time. So Kareem was coming out of blitz. So he and JJ hit Alex Smith at the same time. And so, but I had the same reaction watching it, like, that's Alex Smith. But he was in the Chiefs. Was that right? No.
He was a Chief then. Well, in the Pro Bowl, yeah, he was a Chief.
Well, why the heck? Why would he be sacking him? I thought it was AFC, NFC. Oh, there was a year where they did the draft sort of thing. I remember they kind of drafted different teams and did all that. But watching JJ kick field goals and then go out there and JJ could always be a problem in All-Star games because if JJ is putting on the equipment, there's no slowing him down.
No, certain guys
there's
like
no
that.
75% in that man.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like, okay, look, we're just going to walk through at 75%. Like, no, it's either a 0 or 100.
You got to be careful with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody tweeted out Sylvester Stallone accepting Best Picture or whatever it was at the Oscars. No, he was presenting, and he hadn't won yet, or the picture hadn't won yet, and Ali comes out.
Right.
And they're kind of fake boxing a little bit. I don't know if you want to be fake boxing with Muhammad Ali. Is he going to remember? Richard Pryor had a whole bit on that because he did an exhibition with Ali once.
Yeah.
And he said, is he going to remember that this is an exhibition?
Right.
He said the punches from Ali, you didn't see him until he was pulling them back.
Yeah.
They're that fast.
Yeah, he was that quick. Speaking of Sly, Carl Weathers, we lost Apollo Creed over the weekend.
That's another thing that happened since you and I have last talked. And that one kind of hit hard.
Yeah, it did.
Right? Some of these celebrity deaths, it's... You know what it does? It reminds you of how you felt when they were big, right?
Yeah.
And like it's sad somebody dies, I get it, but you don't really know the person. You know what they did, and you know how you felt about it, and how others around you felt about it. And so he has a lot of that. He's got Happy Gilmore too.
Right.
He's got Action Jackson. Yeah, I remember that one. But obviously the Rocky movies and his fictional son took over the franchise with the Creed stuff.
So. He was on, Carl Weathers was on Rich Eisen. And I want to send this to my daughter because my daughter right now is in the midst of, auditioning and things. And she's in the hopefully the audition process right now with one, kind of getting deep in the process. And he tells the story, Carl Weathers does, of how he ends up with getting the Apollo Creed role. So he goes in, he doesn't know Sly Stallone from anything.
Yeah.
He just knew of, that Sly was, had been involved in the writing process.
Yeah.
So when he got the script, he had told his agent, I want to do this. I really want to get in there. So he said he goes in to read with, he goes in to read for the part of Apollo Creed. So when he's in there, he's reading the part, and Sylvester Stallone is doing the Rocky thing. So Apollo, he's doing, yo, Adrian, yo, Apollo. He's doing that thing, and Apollo's playing the part. He's doing his thing, and they get done, and they're kind of talking, and Apollo, or Carl Weathers says, hey, if you guys get me a real actor, I could do a lot better.
Oh.
He had no idea that Sylvester was going to play Rocky. He had no idea. A couple days later, they called him and said, you got the part. And it sounded as if casting wasn't all that interested in him at first, and he came and he did the read. They were pretty happy with that. But he said that he makes that comment, and he said once they started filming, they realized that Sylvester was playing Rocky. He then had this moment of, oh my God, I can't believe I said that.
I'd love to know who else was up for that part.
They said one of the things that Carl Weathers said was that they were looking for boxers they felt could act. Not the other way around, that they were looking for actors that actually had some athletic ability. And when Weathers walked in to do the part, they were kind of like, that's what we're looking for.
What about somebody really famous? I guess they didn't want that because he wasn't famous at the time.
Well, he did mention, Ali, but they're like, there's no way they could get Ali.
Right.
But apparently Ken Norton was on the radar screen.
Ken Norton. What about getting a guy like Jim Brown, who's already an actor who could play a boxer for sure?
Well,
and he's been in a lot of movies, so he's familiar with the craft.
I don't know if that ever popped up, but that's essentially what Carl Weathers ended up being. He played a year in the NFL with the Raiders in 1970. He played in the CFL for a few years, and then he got into acting at that point. So he had done a couple of things. So he was working on his acting chops at the same time that he was finishing up his athletic career. So obviously he got the NFL, played, I think, San Diego State. So he had the athletic ability. And then I remember seeing this years ago. He was talking about watching Muhammad Ali film and just trying to emulate everything Ali did. Ooh. And that was really his inspiration. And you watch him, you could see it. You can see that part. And then obviously the braggadocio and just how he went about it he was perfect. I mean, you look now and you're like, man, I don't know, they could have come up with anybody better for Apollo Creed. Like, he was perfect. Now they probably could have, and Rocky still would have been great, but He was perfect in that role as the villain who ends up turning into an ally for Rocky.
Other things that have happened since the last time we were on the air following the Texans campaign, the Tennessee Titans have a new head coach, and Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. It still blows my mind that Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick got shut out of this job cycle. I guess Pete Carroll didn't want a job, but that is really notable, and especially Vrabel. I get it more for Belichick in this sense, Johnny, that, all right, maybe it's the Patriot way without Brady, and what happened, what have you done for me lately, and that whole thing, and do we really want to bring this in, and how many years is it going to last? I get those questions. I'm not taking anything away from Belichick as a coach, as opposed to many people who are. Almost the worst thing that happened to him is Tom Brady going and winning a Super Bowl with Bruce Arians as his head coach, but we can get to that at another time. But Mike Vrabel, if Mike Vrabel's really interested in coaching, it surprises me that he did not get another gig.
Yeah, and that goes to your point. Maybe he needed or wanted a year off. Maybe he needed a year away. You know, Tyler is down with the Falcons. He had been with the Falcons practice squad. I think he was down there. I don't know if he'll still be down there, but you know, who's to say? You know, sometimes, and I can't speak for all these guys, but I think sometimes a forced break is actually a good thing. And just step away from it and realize either A, you know what? I can be away from the game.
Yeah.
Let me look at a TV opportunity or some other way of doing this. Or you have this, I got to go back. I got to go back.
Who should he hang out with? We were at the Greenbrier, and who was with him at the Greenbrier as they were going through their own personal regen in their career? Tony La Russa was with him at the Greenbrier, just
with
sort
Belichick,
of with Belichick,
Right.
just observing. And Tom Crean was another one, but I don't think Tom ever got back into coaching, did broadcasting.
I think
I can look it up.
Tom Crean did go back
since
somewhere in coaching.
2017.
Tom Crean's a Harbaugh in-law. He married their sister.
Right, that's right.
So Tom Crean, Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, and then Jack's dad, who won national championship at Western Kentucky. Now, as far as Vrabel goes, and again, I had this conversation with a buddy of mine as I was driving down to the Senior Bowl, and we talked about perception versus reality.
He went to Georgia. What am I saying? He went to Georgia. Crean did. Okay, good. So
perception versus reality. Well, what's the perception of Belichick? No fun, no joy, hard on everybody. It's very difficult working with him. Like, that's the perception. But then we bring in Nick, or we talk to Nick about it. And he's like, look, a lot that's out there is really not true. It is not the case. And it ends up being a perception versus a reality thing. Now, I think the one thing that Belichick will not budge on, this is just my hunch, is personnel. And being the final decision maker.
And maybe nobody wanted to give it to him?
I think he learned that from Parcells, and he obviously had that with New England. I think he feels that's the only way it can be done, which I'm sure in his heart he knows it's not the only way. But what spot is he going to go to where the GM and he have a really good relationship where he knows right away, okay, he's fine. He can handle the personnel. I've got it. That would probably be right here because he probably would know and trust Nick. But that obviously isn't going to happen.
What did Parcells do in Dallas? What did he do in Dallas when Jerry
took over as the personnel guy?
So Jerry said, your word is final.
Jerry backed off.
No question about it.
Jerry backed off, and it drove him crazy. It drove Jerry crazy.
Even though he took them from the 5-11 era to back to the playoffs.
Drove him crazy.
All right.
Drove him crazy. I mean, if you think about it this way, what if you maintained radio with me, you did your things that you were in the building, but then on Sundays you had to be up in a booth and watch somebody else call the games.
I would. It would not be good.
Right, exactly.
Fetal position.
That's what
Jerry
was.
Outrage, and I get arrested for committing a crime. So,
right.
Either way,
there's a murder in the booth.
Yeah, murder in the booth.
But I think that's kind of the way Jerry felt. Like Jerry had been in charge, and to get Parcells, that's what he said. Like, okay, this is what Parcells want. I'm going with it. And it drove him insane. Yeah, and he didn't want that anymore. And that's why I think Belichick won't end up in Dallas, at least not now anyways. But I think what it sets up for with Vrabel as a free agent, quote unquote, Belichick as a free agent, quote unquote, Pete Carroll still out there. Now, I know that Pete and Belichick are both like 72, 71, 72. Yeah. They're in their 70s. But with those three as free agents, if you will, it's going to put whatever coach is on a hot seat right now.
A lot of pressure.
a lot of pressure.
Extra
a
pressure.
A lot of pressure to put on them because.
What about Callahan?
Hey, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously being a big part of that Cincinnati offense. I mean, we saw it with with Bobby coming over for San Francisco. It's like, well, it's not going to be the same. Look, Tennessee's got questions. Is Levis the right guy?
I don't know.
How do they formulate their run game without Derrick Henry? I like Tajay Spears, but offensive line. How are you going to fix the offensive line? You tried to fix it with some money last year. Skoronski, a draft pick. You got to get more draft picks up there. How do you fix the offensive line? Defensively, I think defensively, once they get Simmons back in the fold, they still are working on it secondary. How long have they been working on it secondary?
Yeah, forever.
It feels like they've been working on it forever. So I think Callahan will take that offense to a different level. It's just a matter of how fast does Levis pick it up? How fast does he learn? I got to get rid of the football. I can't sit back behind this offensive line and think I'm going to have time to throw. I mean, what do we have, like 14 sacks against them in 2 games or 12 or something like that in 2 games? I mean,
that was awesome.
That offensive line has a long way to go. So to me, what Brian Callahan does is about coaches he brings in and then what personnel they're going to bring in, especially on the offensive line. That's when you'll start to see, okay, we'll see how this Titans team. And I mean, and therein lies the rub. Brian Callahan didn't have a great offensive line with the Cincinnati Bengals, but he had Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Will Levis is not Joe Burrow. So it may have to go the other way. They may have to get the offensive line to get more and get better play out of Will Levis.
Higgins, Boyd, Mixon. Those tight ends are no slouches.
Now name the skill players for Tennessee.
Yeah, please. No,
Burks, Hop, maybe. I think Hop's coming back. Maybe.
I guess so.
Nick Westbrook-Akine, is he going to come back?
Hey, by the way,
Henry probably not.
Since we're on the subject, we'll be at the Combine in a few weeks here, but this offseason, the Texans Hot Stove, H-Town Hot Stove, a new podcast, H-Town Hot Stove. It is going to be cooking because all the free agents, I mean, you have basically 36 free agents for the Houston Texans. So what happens? You're not getting everybody back. We all know that.
Right.
So who do you want back? And you and I have talked about this a little bit, but Dalton Schultz, Devin Singletary, Sheldon Rankins. What do you do? All these guys, you can't pay everybody. Eventually, Nico's bill comes due. Do you pay that now and not wait for the big jamboree next year when he hits the market? And then you have to play the franchise game maybe or whatever else you have to do. He has another huge year and all of a sudden the price even goes up more. Or maybe he wants to wait and bet on himself, so to speak. Who knows? There's so many questions about this team and how they're going to handle things because I'll tell you this, what do we always say? You got to get better.
There's no doubt.
You got to get better because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Everybody's hunting for you now in the division and beyond. The schedule's brutal. I mean, look, we could argue about marquee brand name recognition versus how tough the opponent really is. It's tough. They're all tough. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you brought up is really interesting and just kind of getting the feel of being down in Mobile. I would think money being obviously a big consideration for guys a lot of times, but if you're an offensive free agent, you have to look here. You have to be intrigued at least to go, I can go play with that quarterback. I can go play for that head coach.
In that city with no state income tax.
With no state income tax. I have to be thinking about playing for the Houston Texans.
Absolutely.
Have to.
And you get to come in here and be interviewed by us. I mean, what could be better than that?
I'm absolutely. So every single, now that's just, I mean, that's offense. But if I'm defense, I'm thinking kind of the same thing. Hey, man, I can be a part of taking that team to a different level.
Just show them the D'Amico victory speech after the Colts game. That's all you have to see.
You get to play with this, you get to play for this guy. You get to line up alongside some of these other guys, and
you have
the
to
guys
give them a
that
check
have been
too,
here.
By the way, not just a speech. Just
it was interesting. There was an article by Ty Dunn. I think it was Ty Dunn, and it was kind of about C.J. Stroud, but it's kind of about the Texans too. But it was kind of about C.J. with kind of the underlying like, oh, the Texans are getting better sort of thing. Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz were both quoted in that, saying, hey, I don't know what I was thinking, taking a 1-year deal, it's come to Houston, it's an opportunity, et cetera. Now I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. I want to be here. And I think that says a lot for what the McNairs, Nick, and D'Amico have built in this building, that players want to be here. They want to stay. Now, I don't want them to, hey, they made $10 million. Oh, we're going to offer you $4 million just because we know you want to be here. No, there's economics involved, obviously, the business of football. But the
certainly
fact that guys want to be here, I think is massive. Because we went through a time a couple years ago where guys were like, middle of the season, I want out of here.
Middle of the season.
Middle of the season, like I want out of here. That's not happening, and hopefully it won't happen for a long time.
No.
But there was one of our, I think it posted on our X or Twitter or whatever, and it was Will standing next to Laramie and standing next to CJ.
Yeah.
And you go, those three guys are under contract for 3 more years.
Nice.
I mean, if you think
When
about
you
that
put
way,
it that way,
they're under contract for 3 more
like
years.
that.
All of them. You're 3 Pro Bowl. Like,
so is Dell. You got 2 more years with Christian Harris, who blew up. I mean, we can go on and on. There are so many different guys to talk about. Of course, Stingley.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to look forward to, and we'll be covering all of it all season long.